Welcome to the Foul Front Outdoors Tales and Tips segment, where we bring to light the heart of hunting through shared experiences and lessons learned. By talking with real hunters, both new and old, to preserve and share part of this passion that we hold dear, not only to entertain, but also to educate. So listen up, because this is Tales and Tips, and you're on the Foul Front. All right, so for today's Tales and Tips episode, we have the infamous internet/duck hunting star Wade Skeen.
Thanks for that. Don't know really how to follow that up. I'm sitting out in the muggy garage right now with the laptop up, trying to find the only quiet place around the house with a 5-year-old and a couple of labs running around the house. Luckily, my wife is running interference for me right now, and got a little while to kind of hang out and chat.
That's good. You know, I was joking about, the whole intro there, but I think every single internet duck hunting forum that I get onto, duck hunting or any other, actually, you're there already, and you're an established presence with like 1,000 comments.
Well, I mean, so it started out. I was talking about my son a second ago. It's kind of funny. Excuse me. Anytime I'm laying him down for a nap or like laying him down for bed or whatever it is, I'm on my phone and I sit there and piddle around on one of the HP pages or your guys' page or something like that and talk duck hunting with people, because it's kind of what I'm thinking about all year long, no matter what, if I'm hunting or not. Yeah,
that's true. Now that, trying to put the kid to bed or feeding it, and you got an extra hand, and just scrolling the duck forums. But now you said you have 2 labs?
Well, technically I have 3 labs. I have a 12-year-old that she's just a lap dog. She's a pet. There's no other terms you could put to her. But and then I have a 4-year-old black lab that I trained myself. And
is that the one you used CGA on, or Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy?
No. So he was about 2.5, 3 by the time I got Cornerstone. He was pretty much a finished product. I mean, I still work with him for maintenance purposes and things like that, but he wasn't trained with Cornerstone. And then now I have a 10-month-old SOK lab that kind of a cool story that the guys from SOK, Travis Dortch mainly, and some of the other guys went out and did a big solid for me, and was a gift to me. And so she has been completely trained. And
for those who don't know, SOK is Southern Oak Kennels.
Correct.
Yeah, and I would probably say, just at least in my exposure, they're the premier, just good dudes. And I mean, not only are you getting a good dog, but you're getting good community, and the Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy that comes with it. Go ahead. You want to talk to that for just a minute?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so we went down to annually. SOK has what they call the summit, and we went down to that last year to pick Bree up, and those guys, you don't get a dog, man. You get a dog and a family. It was something else. A lot of our friends that we still talk to on a really regular basis, whether it's about dogs or training or just friendships, it really blossomed a lot through that whole experience, and it's something else. They have a Southern Oak Kennel Society page on Facebook, and that's where everybody kind of keeps in touch, and it's just as active as a lot of the other ones that you see out there, and
right.
It's just a good group of people.
Well, good deal. Well, and we were also talking back to the point of kids. We were talking about. It was very funny the way that you mentioned it. You were talking about getting, exposing your puppy or socializing your puppies, which is a very important part of creating a well-rounded hunting dog. Is and just a good dog in general is to have it, experience things and different people and all that stuff. And we got to talking, and you made an awesome parallel. I wish I had actually hit record as soon as you called me, which was a mistake on my part. But talking about, getting your, we're talking about our daughters and getting them out hunting, and your daughter, she went out, how many times did she?
Well, so she's 11 now, and she turkey hunts. She carries her own gun, has tags and is actually turkey hunting now. But she started going. We moved to Kansas from Hawaii in 2012, and she was just turned 6, and so she started turkey hunting with me right away.
Yeah.
And the parallel I was making was, she wasn't carrying a gun. She wasn't really doing anything but tagging along and being introduced to nature and hunting and stuff like that. But even though she wasn't hunting, she got that introduction and that love of it early on. And now that she's 11, that's all she wants to do is go hunting with Dad. That was where we kind of started that conversation. Her birthday just came up last month, and when we asked her what she wanted for her birthday, all she said, I just want to go turkey hunting. And so, of course, she got a new shotgun for her birthday this year.
Oh, man. That's I know I'm supposed to treasure these moments that right now when Nadine is little, but I just can't wait to take her out to get her exposed to this kind of stuff, and I hope she likes it. I hope I do a good job. That's part of the reason I actually started doing this podcast was life has a way of it can come abruptly to an abrupt halt. And I just thought to myself, like, man, what better way, to leave a legacy or leave something behind of just hours of her dad, talking about, hunting and something that he enjoyed, something that I could pass on. And also, all besides the other obvious reasons of helping other hunters out. But that's another little, peace of mind thing. I just spent 28 years trying to figure out, who I am. And then, it all changes in a blink of an eye when you have that kid.
Right, yeah, it definitely does. And, what you're talking about resonates because, I'm 30, I'll be 37 here in a couple of weeks. And, I think about like my absolute best memories from my childhood are not, a new bike that I got or that first Nintendo I got or anything like that. But, I still remember the first deer that I shot when I was with my dad. I remember that tree we were sitting beside, just getting in the truck in late summer and going and riding around through the country and looking for deer and, in bean fields and stuff like that. We didn't waterfowl hunt growing up. We bow hunted a whole lot, but, that time, spent with my dad, whether we were hunting or getting food plots ready on our little lease out there or whatever, that still is the best memories of my childhood, and kind of actually, funny enough, segues perfectly kind of into what we're talking about today, with the kids. I take them with me all the time. If you look on Facebook, you'll see pictures. My wife likes to take pictures, and, we go out scouting. The kids are in the truck with me. Matter of fact, that's my free pass actually, because I can load my 5-year-old up in the truck and I can go and do anything I want to at that point. So during duck season, he gets in the truck and he goes and helps me find property or helps me scout different properties for hunting places or whatever. And
I suppose he's a pretty good help too when it comes to getting permission, huh?
He's a very good help when it comes to getting permission, because when a guy gets out of the truck with a little 5-year-old walking up there asking about your tractor and this and that and the other, it's quite the icebreaker.
Absolutely. Well, should we get down into the beans?
Yeah. So kind of going right from what we were talking about, just a little story about flexibility and adaptability when it comes to hunting. I was thinking about it earlier, and I've got this friend here in town that I was talking to him last fall, and man, I just can't kill any birds. My pond that I have, it's dried up. We've got a really dry year, And I was like, I know, man, it's just terrible. And I didn't come down too hard on him, but I was thinking the whole time, I was like, why are you hunting the same place over and over and over? Like, why are you not diversifying a little bit? And it kind of brings me to what one of the hunts we had last year here in Wichita. At least we have 3 waterfowl zones within 1 hour of us, so we can start hunting. What we refer to as big ducks, non-teal season, around the first week in October, and between the 3 zones, we can run that all the way to the end of January. And then, we have one zone up north about an hour away. We have our main core zone where we are, and then we have another zone about 30 minutes to the southeast of us. And during our main zone split, which is usually the first 2 weeks of January, we have the east zone that we can usually go hunt in. Well, last year, that was unseasonably cold the first 2 weeks of January, and all the ponds, still water locked up, and I mean seriously locked up, like 6 inches plus of ice, which is pretty good for us. It's to the point where if you don't have an ice heater, it's just really not an option. We cut holes with chainsaws and stuff like that, but it was too bad for that. So we were kind of racking our brains, and we were like, man, we don't have any river access really to the main river, so we didn't have any open water. Our ponds that we had in that zone were froze up, and I got to thinking, I was like, well, I've got this spot that I turkey hunt that has this really small river that runs through it. Maybe, just maybe, it's open. And I knew there's a lot of agriculture in that area, and I knew it hold birds. So I rode out there, and sure enough, it had open spots in it, and some birds were using it, but not anything ridiculous. But we decided, all right, well, let's give it a shot. And we took, maybe a dozen, maybe 18 decoys. I think we took a dozen floaters and like 6 full bodies to throw on the ice, and then a couple of like pulsators or something like that. And it just so happened that it coincided with a big snowstorm that day, so we went out there, and our first place, the main hole we were planning to go to was froze up solid. We could walk all the way across it. So we started kind of searching up and down the river, and 50, 60 yards up the river there was where some rapids normally are, and there was a hole there, and it was tiny. It was 15 yards from our blind all the way across the river to the other bank. And then the hole was maybe 20 or 30 yards long. So we're like, all right, well, we're here. This is our best option. And before you knew it, we had 3 guys hunting that morning, but we only killed 10 or 12 ducks. But it wasn't the biggest pile of birds that we stacked up last year.
Yeah, but that's a day where most guys are out. Darn it, pond's closed up. I'm gonna sleep in today. I'm gonna enjoy the the view out the window. I think that's my number one rule whenever anybody ever asks me, like, hey, what's the most important thing, I can do, to be better at duck hunting? I just, I always just tell them, oh, you got to be out there.
Yeah, you're not going to kill them from the couch.
Yeah. Even if you have a crap spot on a crap day with, crap ammo and crap shooting, like, you're gonna your odds are better if you're out hunting. So
absolutely.
Now I think you're looking at the pictures of you, like the way that you hunt and stuff like that, and then we talked a little bit about it. But the way that the gear that you pack out, you're talking about flexibility and adaptability. What are you running? Like, what's your?
It varies so much. So that hunt, for instance, we were hunting this tiny little hole that was open in the river. And I had a dozen decoys on my back, my blind bag, my shotgun, and a stool, and that was it. And my buddies were carrying, similar type deals. So, we ended up with 18 decoys out there and a couple of, pulsators or a jerk rig or something to that effect, and then a stool and our blind bags, and that was it. But then we may hunt a 10-acre cattle pond and we may put out 10 dozen ducks and 2 to 4 to 5 dozen geese.
That's when you're backing the truck up to the pond.
That is when we are driving the truck all the way up to the edge of the pond. You're exactly right.
Yeah. You know, so it's always the ice. Ice always, that seems to be most hunters think it's the bane of their season is ice. And to a certain extent, that can be true because they can drive a lot of traffic south when things start really locking up. But I personally love a good hard freeze.
Absolutely.
Because what it does is like it limits options, and then I can create options.
Yep.
And
it ice, and you know, you won't hear too many waterfowlers say this, I guess, but dry conditions, same thing. Mm-hmm. Anything you can do to concentrate birds, if you put the time in to figure out what's working, what's not. Similar scenario last year. Everything had frozen up, and this was a couple of weeks after the hunt that I was talking about earlier. I got out, and the sand pit, the quarry ponds, they'll stay open a lot of times because they get groundwater, and because just so many thousands of birds will keep the water open.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So I got out and started scouting, and typically you can't hunt most of those quarry ponds because they're active sand pits, but I got out and I started looking around, and just so happened to find a stretch of river that was just holding thousands and thousands of greenheads. And I don't have a boat, but I started calling around to a couple buddies, and I was like, hey, if you don't have a spot to go, I don't have a way to get back in here, but I assure you we're gonna kill a lot of ducks. And sure enough, I got one of my buddies like, yeah, man, let's do it. And he loaded his boat up and brought it out there, and I think we had a 4-man limit by, 45 minutes, an hour into the hunt.
Yeah.
Same thing.
You bring up a really good, like a little tidbit for, okay, so you're the new guy out hunting, let's say, and you don't have all the decoys, you don't have a boat, you don't have the dog, heck, you might even be borrowing someone's shotgun. But the most finite resource on the planet is time. Mm-hmm. And if you can contribute some time by driving around and finding birds, then you can go to your buddies who have the boats. You can go to people who have boats, or even put it out on an internet forum saying, hey, guys, listen, found a spot just loaded with ducks, don't have the resources, but I got the spot and I got the waterfowl. You're gonna your inbox is gonna blow up.
If you're the guy with access, you're gonna be the prettiest girl at the prom.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Really quickly, because that's the one thing that we all push for, and we're all searching for more and more all the time is access. And if you're that guy with access, then you're not going to have any shortage of friends for sure.
I'd trade every decoy that I have every year for a new hunting spot that was solely mine and my friends.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Speaking of which, we just signed our lease on our property Wednesday.
Oh, is that the one you asked me to buy in on?
Yeah, it's about 20 minutes east of town here.
If it wasn't an hour and a half away from me.
Well, and right now it needs water, so we'll see.
Yeah. But another point that I wanted to bring up about ice, and it being the bane of some hunters' existence, and it being, kind of, the smart adaptative hunters, crutch almost. I had a Oklahoma small farm pond, but it was super deep, and the ice had frozen over enough that ducks couldn't land on it, but I could not walk my butt out there because it was too thin. Mm-hmm. But there was a hole in the middle of the pond. No way for me, because it was 40 yards in. So I'm not getting shots on any of these ducks. So what I ended up doing is I just put every goose decoy that I had,
Right.
just on the edge of the pond. And then I sat about 20 yards off of that because I was watching the birds, and I probably didn't even need the decoys because I saw the birds coming in, and they would do one pass over the hole, and then they would bank out over this hill that had it was like a fence behind it, and so I just went up and I sat right along that fence line, and as they would come around and turn, I'd hit them right there.
Yep.
Limit it out that way.
I mean, it doesn't always have to be. I mean, of course we all love it, 15 yards, feet down in the decoys. But you know, when the conditions get tough like that, whether it's ice or low water conditions, or you're hunting, you know, public ground, and you know you can't get into this marsh over here, but the ducks are swinging over you. I know Cheyenne Bottoms. There's a place out there, and I've never done it, but there's a place out there where they basically create a firing line for the geese that are working in to the refuge out there, and guys kill geese that way, you know. And it's not my favorite way to hunt, but you know, sometimes I guess.
Yeah, the only way I don't really like doing pass by shooting is kind of what that's
pass
called.
Shooting, yeah.
I don't like doing that. But the only reason that day in particular I did it was because I'd set up the original way, and then I just happened to see, man, why is every bird going to this hilltop? And you know, went up there, and sure enough, I mean, like you said, like they were literally 15 feet from me, just the way that they were banking. But I agree. You just gotta take the options you have, you know. Yeah, exactly. Aren't we linking up with some of the HP listeners? Are we going to Cheyenne Bottoms? Are we linking up there?
Well, I think they have a kind of 3 or 4 different areas around where they're planning on staying that guys are going to kind of spread out, because I think there's probably 15 or 20 guys that are talking about doing it. So, you know, if we get that many in there, we'll have to kind of split up some. But of course, Cheyenne Bottom is big enough for.
Yeah, I've got an A-frame, and I've got that 14-foot boat, and I have that 8-foot boat. Not that the 8-foot boat will be much help, but let me know if you need help running anybody.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a pretty good setup. We'll definitely have some fun on that trip. I think we gotta figure out the logistics of the lodging situation so that we can all hang out after the hunt. It's going to be the biggest hurdle.
Well, it's pretty cold for a tent.
Yeah, well, I think they're planning on doing it end of October time frame, so it shouldn't be.
So maybe
it shouldn't be. Yeah, it should be pretty mild. Hopefully, you never know. You know, sometimes it seems like every year for Halloween when I go trick or treating with the kids, you gotta put your bibs and your big jacket on, because that one day for some reason always gets really cold.
Yeah. Well, what other stories of adapting and overcoming and utilizing Plan F do you have?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, that's kind of the 2 examples of the big ones. But you just, you know, you never know whether it's it's public land, and you're, you know, say you get out there at shoot light, and you know, you watch those guys that are hopefully 300 or 400 yards away from you over there. You know, it's two of them, and they shoot their limit by 8:45, and greenheads are still dumping in there after they leave. Well, maybe you need to pick up your 2 dozen decoys and go fill that spot. Or, you know,
question for you: when it comes to time, do you do much afternoon hunting, evening hunting?
So funny enough, I do a little bit of evening hunting, but that's usually the family hunts. That's usually it's unseasonably 60-degree day in December in Kansas, and I load them all up, the whole circus as we call it. The 4-year-old, the 5-year-old now, my daughter, my wife, the dog, we all load up, and we'll go out on an afternoon hunt somewhere. Now, I will make exceptions from time to time if there's a huge cold front coming in.
Right.
One of those midday cold fronts where it's supposed to drop 30 degrees between noon and 4 a.m. or 4 p.m. or whatever, and you get out there, and those days can just be lights out, honestly.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I know in my first season, I spent a lot of time doing afternoon hunts with little success until I learned that it's all about the weather when it comes to that. Yep. So,
and I steer clear. Even when I deer hunted a lot, I still mostly steered clear of afternoon hunting most of the time because that's my favorite thing about waterfowl. I can get up, I can go duck hunting in the morning, and I can usually be home by 11 o'clock, maybe noon, 1 o'clock on exceptional days or days that I really want to stay out there for weather or something like that. But, I can get home at 11 o'clock and I've got the rest of the day with the family. And, by the time I get home, they're just getting up, stirring good, ready to go do something. So
Right.
So it doesn't take away too much family time if I do it that way.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I'm lucky in a sense too. A lot of guys travel a long way to hunt and maybe have to make a weekend out of it or something like that. And I have within 45 minutes I can pretty much be at any of our spots with the exception of the north zone, but that we usually only hunt that the first couple of weeks of the season.
Now I'm in the north zone, late zone, right?
You should be in the low plains early zone, right?
Yeah. No. I'm in the late zone.
So you're in low plains late zone.
Yeah.
So you're in the same zone as me.
Okay.
But if you go west of you a little bit, you'll get to the low plains early zone.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge fan of hunting in that area, but hey, it extends the season 3 weeks on the early side, and it's dog work I can get in, and it's
So being new to Kansas, what's the feature that essentially makes it the early zone? What do they tie it to? Is it a river bed?
No, it's two public waterfowling areas. It's Cheyenne Bottoms and it's McPherson Valley Wetlands.
Okay.
Those two, specifically Cheyenne Bottoms, because it's so large and it winters so many waterfowl during the early part of the season. Like that is the destination for the Central Flyway for the early part of the season. So they open it earlier there because it's so shallow. It freezes up really early. So if they waited to open it later,
you wouldn't get to hunt it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the way it breaks down, at least from what I understand of it. But I like it because I don't even know if I want to say this on a public forum, but I've done it on social media before. If you play your cards right in Kansas, you can waterfowl hunt from the first weekend in September or the second weekend in September all the way through February 15th.
Yeah.
And of course, that includes teal and geese. But
I'm excited to trade some hunts with you this season and at least get a good lunch in.
Yeah, well, you'll have to come down, especially in the late season. Of course, I've got some really good friends that live right there in the same town that you do that we've already kind of talked about. But I kind of understand their hunting situation up there, and it seems like they start freezing out a little bit earlier than we do, and have to work a little bit harder. But when we are still rocking pretty good down here, so
right,
you have to load up and just make the trip down.
All right. Well, I know we got about 10 minutes before we have to get over to the Facebook group and do that giveaway this week. So,
you want to keep chatting, or do you want to wrap it up?
Oh no, let's wrap up this Tales and Tips segment, And anything past that, we'll switch over to the iPhones, and we'll call that bonus content for the group.
Sounds good to me. Let's go live on there, and
all right,
we'll pick it up right where we left off there.
Okay.
All right, see you in a minute, buddy.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Foul Front Waterfowl Podcast. Please come join us on our Facebook group, the Foul Front Waterfowl Podcast group, where you can connect with a good group of hunters, because we're all in this together. We need to act like it so that hopefully our great grandkids will be hunting ducks over our favorite public lands. We also ask that you go ahead and give us a written review on iTunes and give us 5 stars if you think we deserve it. And we really do want to hear back from you so that we can give you the best possible content. And if you get in on that Facebook group, you can get in there and you can ask questions and you can tell us what you want to hear next, or you can tell us what you don't like, and we'll be sure to tailor things to our listeners. So, all right, stay safe out there, and we will see you next week.